Good to see you, Paula.
You too.
Are you still dying?
I'm not really feeling it, but it's okay.
You're going to be fine.
That's what you said.
You're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a season of life.
Season of what's wrong with me.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
That is a current season that I'm in.
No, but it's important to be realistic. It's important to be honest.
Yes, I'm being honest.
Good.
Yes.
I'm real proud of you.
Thanks.
All right, here's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, there are 2 movies, and I'm pretty confident that you've never seen them.
Maybe I did, and maybe I didn't.
Okay. The first is a scene, one of my favorite movie scenes of all time.
You're getting really specific now. I definitely didn't see it.
Exactly. I already know that you've never seen this movie. I'm confident you've never seen it. But it's one of my all-time favorite movie scenes. It comes from towards the end of the great movie Field of Dreams.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie that you've never seen.
I've definitely seen Field of Dreams.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
I don't believe you.
You really think I didn't watch Field of Dreams?
I believe exactly. That's exactly
what I
think.
You are incorrect, sir. That is a great movie.
Okay, what's it about?
It's about a guy who goes and builds a baseball field. Build it, they will come.
Okay, good.
I watched that so much as a kid.
Do you know where I went this summer?
Yeah, you told me you went to see the field.
I went to the actual field.
Yeah. I was like, that's so cool.
It was the greatest thing.
That's awesome.
So, all right. In the movie, do you remember this scene? At the end, Terrence Mann is there at the field. They're watching the game, and Shoeless Joe invites him into the corn to go and see what's on the other side.
Mm.
He invites him to go there, and Ray,
like a passing on,
gets upset. Yeah, Ray gets upset because he's not invited to go.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I've done everything I was asked to do.
Mm.
I did absolutely everything I was asked to do, and not once did I ask, what's in it for me? Shoeless Joe looks at him and says, so what are you saying, Ray? He says, I'm saying, what's in it for me? I think it's one of the greatest scenes in the entire movie. It's one of my favorite movie scenes of all time because, like, how often is that the thing that we're asking? Like, I've done everything I was told to do. I did everything you asked me to do, and I haven't gone looking for any reward, and now the thing is being given to somebody else, or the gift, or the
reward.
Some kind of reward is going to somebody else when I'm the one who did all the work. I'm the one who did all the right things. You asked the following things of me, and I did them all, and somebody else gets the glory. Somebody else gets the reward.
Mm-hmm.
And how easily do we get upset with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I love that question. What's in it for me? Because in the end, I think we ask that question a lot. We ask, what do I get in return for doing all of these good things? And we do it especially in our prayer life and our moral life. I want to be good. Why do I want to be good? I want to do the right thing because I don't want to go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm not going to sin. I don't want to do these things that are sinful because I want to get to heaven, and because I want to live a good, morally upright life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do all of the things that I'm supposed to do. But then we see how easily do we see people who are lying, cheating, stealing, doing all kinds of things that are morally evil, and it seems like they get a free pass. It seems like everything goes their way. Everything's okay. So why bother trying to do what's good?
Yeah.
Right? If everybody's just going to get what they want anyway, why should I even bother trying to be good?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to know why you thought I never saw Field of Dreams. I'm still stuck on that. I know you're trying to get to the other important stuff.
I don't know. I'm kind of going with our history of you don't talk about sports. You don't seem to care at all if I mention baseball. And
no, that's like watching. I don't care to watch it.
Well, I don't know.
I've seen a lot of things.
You didn't know who Weird Al was. Moments ago, you admitted to not knowing who Weird Al Yankovic was, and that to me is a big deal.
No, I asked it. I had an idea about who it was, but I didn't really know, so I asked myself the question.
If you don't know a cultural bellwether like Weird Al, how could I possibly expect that you're going to know a cultural climactic moment that is the movie Field of Dreams?
Because I thought Weird Al was this young 20-something, because there was a crazy video song that came out maybe 15 years ago, and I remember it. And I didn't know that it's a 64-year-old man who's been an icon for decades. I had no idea.
Decades.
So I didn't know that.
It's an important musical influence.
I thought it was 2 different people. So that's what I was asking myself. I was
Uh-huh.
asking myself, like,
No, this
who
is.
is
But do you see
Weird
why?
Al?
Do you see why I have like reasonable ground on which to stand? Thinking I don't think she's ever seen Field of Dreams.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, here's another one that I bet you've never seen.
Okay.
Spaceballs.
No.
See? All right, so here's what I knew for a fact that you never saw Spaceballs. I knew there was no way.
I thought you were going to say Office Space, but I finally did watch that. So.
Exactly. So it took me years to get you to watch Office Space. You still haven't watched The Office.
Well, because it was free on Prime. And I was like, let me watch that movie that he told me to watch 7 years ago.
Again, but of the important things that like I just assumed there's no way you ever saw Field of Dreams. Anyway,
listen, Field of Dreams was always on TV. I've watched it so many times.
Have you seen Shawshank? That's another one that's always
on TV.
It's
one of my favorite TV.
Good. Okay. That's an important one.
I literally own that movie. It's great.
Good. All right. I'm glad.
Yeah. Twister was also one of my favorite movies. Always on TV.
Wow. Ooh, Twister.
Twister was good.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Unexpected appearance by like Philip Seymour Hoffman, just like
I don't know people's names. Don't go too far.
He's just it's fantastic.
Okay.
It's great. So one of the great scenes in Spaceballs.
Is this about like dodgeball in space or something? But it literally sounds like it.
Spaceballs is a Mel Brooks movie, and it's basically a parody of Star Wars.
Oh, okay, whatever.
It's great. It's comic genius. I mean, Mel Brooks just nails it. He's so good. But there's this scene where Dark Helmet, who's the Darth Vader type character, right? Dark Helmet is in the midst of this thing, and he says, "And good is dumb." And
so that's how you decided to combine
that
those
line
two
just
movies.
always stands out for me as like it's hysterical. But all right, why should I be good when so many people who don't do what's good, when so many people are disobeying the rules, the law, the whatever, not living according to the gospel, not living according to basic human decency? Like, why bother being good when there are so many people out there basically just saying good is dumb? Like, why bother being good?
Did you ever watch Night at the Museum?
Yes.
Dum dum wong gum gum. Sorry. That has nothing to do with what I'm going to say next. I just wanted to say that because that's what popped in my head.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I did not take my ADD med today.
I'm grateful that's where med. That's good. That's good. Okay, go ahead.
Such a great line. People are too focused on what other people are doing because you are comparing yourself to other people. You are coveting their good. You are coveting their success. Even
if their success comes by immoral or illicit or illegal or just less than savory means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, okay, it seems unfair that person, right, they shouldn't be receiving those things, those successes, those accolades because they haven't been honest about it. And so, okay, right, so maybe your first feeling is like, there's an injustice here, and I am right to feel in this way because this is unjust. It's a really hard thing too because at the same time, you can get so caught up in what other people are receiving or succeeding at that you just enter into a comparison game. And
comparison's the enemy of grace.
I like that so much better.
Yeah.
I like that. It's the enemy of grace because at this point, you're not even really focusing on what God is providing for you. Is you are focusing so much on what other people are receiving and what you're not getting. And so then you end up having your own little pity party, space of despair, no hope, and it just kind of creates a vortex of darkness.
Ooh, a vortex of darkness.
Which many of us have been in.
Wow.
And it's not until the Father speaks to you that calls you out. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, but it's a good, like, it's a powerful description.
It's a vortex of darkness.
I think anytime you're bringing in the word vortex, it's a little bit extra powerful.
Now I have to really, describe it. It is. So it is dark. So when you are like, what's the point of being good? What's the point of doing anything? If there's no concept of the Father in your life, then honestly, I don't blame you for thinking that.
Sure.
Like, if you don't have a relationship with God, and if you don't know that He is provider in your life, and you have this security in a relationship with Him, I don't blame you for thinking that because that's the natural result of what you're going to think about. You're just going to end up in a super dark place. Why don't I have what they have? Well, I did all these things right. Why is this still not working in my favor? Or I've been so good. It's hard because the world is so screwed up. There's men and women just mess up all the time. Not everything is fair 100% of the time. There are things that just aren't fair. Even in the midst of all of those injustices, though, I'm just thinking, like, for some reason, all of a sudden, I'm thinking of Saint Martin de Porres,
Yeah.
whose feast day we just celebrated, a couple days,
Like a week ago?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's say his life is not fair. Dad was a noble who totally rejected him. Mom was an African slave woman, grew up in Peru, wanted to become a religious but couldn't because it was outlawed at the time.
Right.
That if you are
They couldn't become a priest.
couldn't even enter the order.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he did.
Well, after like many years, like they made an
okay.
exception for him. So this Dominican order.
I'm sorry. I thought it was because he couldn't be ordained a priest. I didn't realize that. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, they didn't
Wow.
they didn't allow color folk to become religious.
Okay.
That was the rule at that time. So this was the 1500s, I think. So even in the face of all of those injustices, like.
Are you allowed to say that?
Say what?
You said colored folk.
I'm sorry. Am I what? He was
I don't know.
He was black. He was mestizo. No, he's not mestizo. He's mulatto.
Yeah.
So he's of Spanish and African descent, and you can kind of think, oh, like, well, imagine if he was just so focused on what he couldn't, what he didn't have.
Yeah.
He wanted it, but what his insistence, his persistence to join the order, he was like, well, what can I do to volunteer? Like he would still find a way to try to make himself available to the order and just happy to do whatever.
Yeah.
Give me a menial task. I just want to serve God.
I'm glad you're bringing up Saint Martin de Porres as an example, because it's actually an ideal example of exactly what I want to get at.
Yeah.
Which is that as that question is resonating, like why bother being good when there are so many not good people who are getting things, or when there are so many obstacles to doing what's good. It seems like sometimes it's harder to do what's good than it is to do what's evil.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right? So how often does our environment become that kind of place where it's just easier not to be virtuous, right? So if we're living in that kind of a world, if that's the kind of stuff that we're dealing with all the time, St. Martin de Porres gives us a good example because he chose to do what was good anyway.
Yes.
He chose to do what was good because it was good, even if there was opposition, even if there were obstacles, even if nobody else was supporting him. He still chose to serve the poor. He still chose to make the attempt. He still chose to strive for what was good anyway, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real value in that. It's easy to get discouraged, right? Looking at the situation of the world, looking at the things that face us. I did the right thing and people are mad at me.
Yeah.
I did something that was virtuous and honest, and now I'm being mocked for it. It feels like there's a lack of reward. It's the return on investment isn't always as good as it should be. But we can actually rest very peacefully knowing that we have done what's right. We've done the good thing. We have chosen to do the good instead of choosing the easy way, which is to do what's evil. And that's what Jesus tells us in the gospel, right?
Yeah.
The way to life is a narrow way. So strive to enter through the narrow gate. It's harder to do this.
Yeah.
But the way to destruction is broad and easy. And so often when the world makes it easy to do things that are not virtuous, things that are even evil.
Wasn't that the Sunday's gospel too? That oh gosh, not the gospel, one of the readings about the men who were being asked to eat pork.
Yeah.
The brothers being asked to eat
in Maccabees.
Just simply, hey, guess what? You can go back, live your life with your family, be okay as long as you eat pork, which was against Jewish law because it was an offense to God.
Right.
Like this was God's command, and the willingness that they were willing to go to all the way through martyrdom.
They were willing to die for the sake of that truth and for the sake of living according to the law, because it was the right thing to do. To be obedient to God is right, even when it seems like, oh, what's the big deal?
Yeah, which is an attitude that we're tempted to do.
We are very tempted to.
It's just a little lie, or it's a little this,
we become kind of minimalists when it comes to doing the right thing or following the law.
Right.
So this is an area where priests get affected a lot. I was telling you before the example of, like, as a priest, how many times have I been yelled at, or just treated as though I'm the worst person in the world because at a funeral, I told the family that a Frank Sinatra tune was not an appropriate song for the funeral mass. They couldn't have that as the entrance hymn. That you can't have My Way as your I did it my way as the entrance hymn at your funeral. It's just not appropriate. Spirit in the Sky is not appropriate music for a funeral mass. And that's not me saying it like exclusively me, my own judgment. That's the church. The church gives us norms for how to celebrate a funeral and for the things that we're supposed to do. It's so easy. Like I follow the rules when it comes to celebrating funerals, or when it comes to celebrating mass, period. Like I do what I'm supposed to do. But what happens? You do the thing that the rubrics actually call for. You speak according to what the church actually teaches about these things. And it's real easy to have people get upset, angry with you about it, or to see that other places that aren't doing that will do whatever they want, and they'll allow for whatever number of different liturgical abuses are out there, and you're the one who gets the call from the bishop, not that place.
That blows my mind.
Or you're the one that is informed that there's been a complaint about how you do things instead of like this other place, and that's really hard, and that's a reality that we face.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this. Several weeks ago, there was a study published about the lives of priests in the United States.
No.
Sort of a survey of priests. It was a really interesting survey.
From who?
I don't remember who did it, but it wasn't like Pew, like you'd normally expect a lot of the Pew Research or what's the other one? Yeah, something like that.
The Catholic one, yeah.
Yeah, you often expect that. No, this was, I think Catholic U did it. I'm pretty sure it was a Catholic U survey. And it was really interesting. And it was about priests and their satisfaction in ministry, as well as their attitudes about just different things in their lives. And in particular, it was saying, talk about your bishop and talk about your relationship with the bishops. And how many of the priests, the response was like overwhelmingly, priests basically saying we struggle with trust with our bishops, and even more so, we struggle with trust with the bishops as a whole. And part of it was that I'm pretty confident that should anybody complain about me, I'm the one who's getting thrown under the bus. Should there be any complaint, even if I did the right thing, even if I did exactly what I was required to do, it's easier to throw the priest under the bus than it is to actually address the complainant who has complained about something that may not be reasonable. Now, there's other stuff, right? Like there might be very good reason to complain.
Right.
But even there's this sense from priests that we're not going to get a fair shake. Well, so all that was also kind of on my mind as I'm thinking about this. Like, why do the right thing? Why do things the right way if it's so easy to find opposition or it's so easy to get people against you? And it comes down to exactly what Martin DePorres did. I'm so glad you brought him up.
I'm so glad the Holy Spirit really popped him into my head.
Martin DePorres kept doing the things that were right, the things that were good, even if there was no tangible reward, even if there was nothing coming to him, because it was the right thing to do. And this gets to that idea of, we talk about the transcendentals in philosophy, right? The one, the true, the good, and the beautiful. Well, the good is good in itself. To do what's good, to hold on to what is good, is a good in itself. Like it has intrinsic value. It's valuable in itself to do what's good, even if there's no earthly reward.
Right.
Right. So if I do something good, even if you don't recognize it or you don't know that I did it, it was still good for me to do it.
I think, like, that's good. And you saw what I did there.
I see. That was good.
Did not mean to do that. I was like, it's good. But even then, I would say, like, it's not good enough.
That it's good in itself.
Yeah.
Well, so there's the good in itself. But when we connect it to our faith, what is good? Who is good?
Exactly. It's got to be oriented back to God in such a way that it's like, I am doing what I am doing because I want to please God, not from a fear of going to hell or a fear of having to earn his love, but pleasing God, loving God is what brings joy in my life.
Yeah. And if God is the highest good, then to do what is good is sharing in his goodness. And so even if I'm not receiving anything in return, even if there's no gift back, to do what's good is to participate in God's goodness, which
Here's
then sets me on that path for eternal union with goodness itself, which is
right.
heaven.
Here's
So it's good.
Here's what's so cool, and this is what I've noticed for myself is when my attitude is that like I am doing this because I want to please God. And I'm not doing it because I want to please the people around me or I'm looking for affirmation from the people around me. One, you're less stressful. I mean, you're not bound to people's highs and lows and their opinions about you, which will create your own highs and lows. It's like you're not gonna go on a roller coaster ride because someone said like a really negative thing. If you know that in the beginning and in the end, like you are falling back on whose you are in God. And so it already changes your whole perspective of why you're doing the work that you're doing. You have more like gusto, you have more like courage to actually go out and do great things when you are focused on pleasing God and not when you're focused on pleasing your fellow friends.
Exactly.
Like there's such a huge wave
Yes.
of relief that I'm not here to please you or to like no, there is a point to, be joyful, make people happy, but if you're being called to do a particular kind of work, I think of Lila Rose a lot. So Lila Rose founded like Live Action, the
Oh yeah.
pro-life movement, and she started this at 18 in college. Like I remember listening to her first talk when I was like, she was 21, I was 18. I was like, wow, she's incredible. She really doesn't care what the other people say about her, and she is getting death threats and receiving so much backlash for her work in the pro-life movement. And she operates out of grace. When she speaks at major media outlets and things like that, and is very firm in what she's proclaiming because it's not about the people who are there to affirm her or to tear her down.
Right.
She knows she's doing God's work. And God's mission in her life is in this particular area.
And she's seeking to speak the truth because it's true.
Exactly.
Even if people don't want to hear it. In the same way that we should be doing what's good, even if nobody else seems to think that it's good or nobody values the goodness
or if
of
nobody
the thing that we're
sees
doing.
it, like I love when they talk about saints and they say, oh, like these people were super holy, but what do they spend most of their time doing? Cleaning toilets. Yeah. Praise Jesus, I'm not cleaning toilets all day, but also it doesn't mean anything wrong for those who literally do that for a living, but it just kind of puts things into perspective. Like,
right. Your goodness the goodness of what you're doing doesn't need to be public.
Right.
It doesn't need to be widely touted or anything like that.
Right.
And even if there is no recognition, it's still good. It's good in itself.
Like you yourself will know, like, I'm just doing God's work. That's fine. I'm going to keep doing my thing.
Right.
To not be unfazed and not to be so like, built on sand, so to speak.
Yeah. And to understand that the good thing that you're striving for is not for this world.
Right.
See, the more we're built up, again, going back to that comparison idea, the more we're built on how people are going to receive it, on how we're going to be perceived. If it's good, if it is the good, if it is the right thing, in a confused world like the world in which we live, there will often be an inability on the part of the public, on the part of people, to recognize and see that the good is present. Or there'll be sort of a visceral reaction that, how could this possibly be good?
Right.
We were talking about this in the spirituality course this week. In
I'm not caught up yet, but go ahead.
Well, there's this great idea that comes in child development, which is that children are inherently spiritual and tremendously capable of encountering the transcendent, and actually that kids desire the transcendent. That a natural part of human development is to long for and desire an encounter with God. Whether it's specifically spoken of as God or simply that understanding that there's something beyond me, As kids grow and they get older, they start to understand there's more than just my world and my desires. And that opens them up to this whole horizon of the transcendent. And then especially in adolescence, that openness to the transcendent increases even more. Well, think about what we've done with youth ministry. And in our experiences in youth ministry, how often would you hear somebody at a Steubenville, at a Catholic Heart Work Camp, a little bit nervous about the idea that we're going to bring the kids to adoration? Right? And it's,
or when we tried, oh gosh, remember that event that we did with that other church, and she goes, the kids don't do adoration. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, they're going to do it.
They're going to do it.
They're going to do it, and they're going to be fine. But how often is it you propose the idea, we're going to have adoration of the Blessed Sacrament for teenagers, and the adults in the room panic.
They do.
They panic, and they go into this whole idea, well, I don't know if the kids can handle it. I don't know if they're going to be okay with that. And all you have to do is explain to the kids what to do, invite them to some silence, help them practice it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then let Jesus do the rest. And that inherent capacity for the transcendent opens up and it blossoms and it becomes something so beautiful. But so often our concern, adults in the room, is can they really handle it? And so we're comparing what we think to an imagined reality instead of recognizing the reality and the good that God wants to do. How often do, in youth ministry, just as an example, how often do the youth ministers or the adults who are doing it actually get in the way of God's grace because, no, I know what's going to work. I know what the kids can handle. Same thing happens in I think in religious education, sacramental preparation. We can do all of this. Or we just get caught up in the idea of nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to come for that because nobody wants that. You never know unless you try.
Yeah, dude, you got to try. I feel so much doing things.
Yeah. So let's give it a shot. Let's try this and see what happens. And I think we'll be amazed at what actually happens. I think we'll be amazed at the fruit that it bears. But we're doing it not because we're trying to get more, because we're trying to get the recognition, but because it's good. Right? In the end, if nobody says a word about how nice it was to have adoration with the teens, does it matter that nobody said anything? No. What matters is that the teens had an opportunity to encounter Jesus Christ in the Eucharist.
And they loved it.
Exactly. Does it matter if my striving to be obedient to the rules, to the way that Mass is supposed to be celebrated, does that matter if nobody notices? Yeah, it does. Even if nobody notices, it still matters.
Yeah.
Because it's still the right thing. In the end, I'm going to have to stand before God.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stand before God and give that account. You got to love the particular judgment, folks. But we're going to have to stand before God and give the account of our actions and what we've done. And do we want to be able to say, I chose to do the good even when it was difficult, even when it seemed like there was no reward, or I continued choosing to do what's good? This might be the bigger one. I continued choosing the good even when I got no reward for doing it, even when nobody paid attention, even when it seemed most ridiculous to continue.
Like Martin de Porres.
Exactly.
I also think about, as you were talking, I kept thinking about Maximilian Kolbe too.
Yeah?
Like, he really, I don't care what you think, I'm going to put these pamphlets on our Blessed Mother. It's okay, Nazis, come and get me. Like,
yeah.
That kind of holy resilience, that holy boldness.
Yeah, and that readiness to, right.
This is a good time to pray, actually. Like, what is it that we can pray for from God? And as soon as I said that, I realized, gosh, when's the last time I prayed for this for myself? God, give me holy boldness. Give me holy boldness.
I think with holy boldness comes not only that freedom to do and to act with boldness, but I think what also comes with that is the freedom from.
Yes, it's both.
The desire for self-affirmation or the desire for affirmation from others. So if I'm trying to be bold, so how often am I trying to be bold because I want people to notice that I'm bold? I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Right? But
it's not.
If I've prayed for holy boldness,
exactly,
then what I'm asking God to do is simply to give me that courage necessary to do the good,
to live good,
to say the right things,
right,
to do what I'm supposed to do,
right,
without fear of what other people are going to think of me, and without that disordered desire for recognition or for some kind of praise for being so bold.
Right.
Lord, give me that holy boldness,
Yeah.
because holy boldness doesn't go looking for recognition,
No.
doesn't go looking for a pat on the back or anything
It's
like
pointed
that.
back at God.
Exactly.
So here's a good time to tell you, stop affirming me in my newsletters. I don't need your affirmation. I already know they're good. I'm
But
kidding. That was really, really full of myself.
No. So, but I feel that it's necessary as like I've got to try to at least let people know that I'm aware of what's going on.
It's good.
I'm working on some things. And part of it is I want to affirm that you did a good job. I think it's important that I do that.
Thank you. From a managerial perspective, yes.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
I feel like I need to do things like that, and I don't do it enough, and I want to try to just let you know I think you did a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I appreciate
That's what
that.
I'm here for.
Awesome.
Hey, listen, I got to cut this kind of short. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do. I have to go pick up bags.
Yeah, we have errands to run. Thanks,
but
Paula.
Yeah, I guess
I'm glad you're feeling okay. I know it's been a rough couple days.
About to find out. I have a sleep test in a couple weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're gonna get one of those masks, like those cool things that you have to wear when you sleep.
Sleep apnea is not cool. Nor are the masks.
I have to wear a mouth guard when I sleep.
You do?
Because I grind my teeth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's horrible.
I forgot to wear it last night. Like I was just really tired. And
Do you wake up in pain because you're crying?
I definitely notice it now. So I never noticed it before.
Okay.
But now that I have the mouth guard, if I forget to wear it, I notice that I was definitely grinding my teeth last night.
Oh yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I hope your sleep test goes well.
I hope so too. It's crazy. It's like a little hotel room and everything. And like, hey, we just want you to sleep. I'm like, that's creepy.
It's not weird at all. No, we just watch you sleep the whole time you're sleeping.
It's
we watch.
Like mad creepy. But anyways, I hope my situation is fixed because
It's extraordinarily creepy.
I'm in a vicious cycle of like being extremely tired.
We got you.
And not being rested and then being tired. It sucks.
I'm here for you.
Yeah, to affirm me on my newsletters.
Exactly. That's really all I do. I'm just here to affirm the newsletters. I don't really want to talk about the rest of the work that you do. Just newsletters.
Yeah. So I think that this is good. Thank you, Father Sam, because I'm going to ask for Martin DeForest to pray for me, and ask him to pray for me to obtain the grace for holy boldness. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paula.
Thanks, Padre.
Father Sam Kachuba.
And I'm Paula Peña.
We're like the Lamb.